Steve Harvey listens to a poor boy's story and changes his life. It was a warm, quiet afternoon in a small town that seemed lost in time, nestled between vast stretches of open road and endless fields of golden wheat. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a soft golden hue over the land. The sounds of the world felt distant, as though the hustle and bustle of the modern age had never reached this part of the world. It was the kind of place where time seemed to stand still, untouched by the constant demands of city life. Steve Harvey, the world-renowned comedian and television host, had always been a man of the spotlight. For years, his life had been consumed by the fast-paced world of cameras, lights, and applause. But today, something was different. He was on a journey of reflection, seeking solitude away from the prying eyes of the public. He had driven aimlessly, hoping to find a quiet place where he could gather his thoughts. Little did he know, this quiet town with its humble charm and simplicity would become the backdrop for a life-changing encounter. As Steve cruised down the long stretch of road, his mind wandered back to the many years he had spent in the entertainment industry. The countless shows, the laughter, the applause. Yet amidst all his success, there had always been a deep yearning for something more, something meaningful. He was about to discover that meaning in the most unexpected of ways. The road ahead seemed endless, and Steve's thoughts were interrupted by the sight of a small figure on the side of the road. At first, he thought it was just a mirage, the heat of the afternoon sun playing tricks on his eyes. But as he drew closer, he saw that it was a young boy standing alone, his silhouette framed by the sun's fading light. The boy's clothes were worn, his backpack tattered, and his small frame carried a weight far beyond his years. Steve slowed down, pulling his car over to the side of the road. He stepped out, his shoes crunching on the gravel as he approached the boy. The young child, nervous but resolute, looked up at Steve with eyes that seemed to carry the weight of an entire world, a world of hardship and hope. There was something about the boy that tugged at Steve's heart. "Hey there, little man," Steve said gently, crouching down to meet the boy at eye level. His voice, though soft and warm, carried a sense of concern. "What's your name?" The boy hesitated for a moment, studying Steve's face. It was clear that he wasn't used to receiving attention from strangers. "Samuel," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Well, Samuel, what are you doing out here all by yourself?" Steve asked, his eyes scanning the empty road for any sign of a parent or guardian. Samuel shifted his gaze downward, his eyes focused on the worn-out soles of his shoes. "I was walking to the next town," he said quietly. "My mama, she said I had to go find a better life." Steve's heart sank as the boy's words echoed in his mind. He could feel the weight of the story behind those simple words. This was not just a child going for a walk. This was a boy who had been sent on a journey born out of desperation, love, and hope. Samuel's shoulders slumped with the exhaustion of life's burdens, far too heavy for someone so young to bear. As they sat together on the soft grass by the side of the road, Steve encouraged Samuel to share his story. With a gentle nudge, Steve said, "You can talk to me, Samuel. What's going on? What's really happening?" The boy's voice trembled as he spoke, his words coming out in a mixture of sadness and hope. "Mom and I live in a small house," Samuel began, his voice cracking slightly. "But we don't have much. Mama works hard, but it's never enough. She said she wants me to go to school and have a better life. She gave me this backpack and said to keep walking until I find someone who can help." Steve listened intently, his heart breaking with every word. As Samuel spoke, Steve was reminded of his own humble beginnings. He too had known hardship as a child. He had been raised in a modest home, with a single mother who had worked tirelessly to provide for him and his siblings. Steve had always promised himself that if he ever reached a place of success, he would use it to help others in need. Now, that promise was being tested in the most profound way. Samuel's story was one of resilience, a child determined to carry the weight of his family's dreams on his small shoulders. Steve couldn't help but feel a deep sense of admiration for this boy, whose courage seemed to defy his circumstances. Samuel's mother had made an unimaginable sacrifice by sending him out into the world, hoping that he might find a way to escape the cycle of poverty that had defined their lives. After hearing Samuel's story, Steve knew he couldn't just walk away. There was something inside him that stirred, a calling that he could no longer ignore. He didn't have all the answers, but he knew one thing. He couldn't leave this boy stranded on the side of the road. "Samuel," Steve said, his voice filled with determination, "how about this? You hop in my car and we'll figure this out together. Deal?" Samuel's eyes widened in disbelief. For a moment, it seemed as though he couldn't comprehend what Steve was offering. "Really? You'd help me?" he asked, his voice full of hope and hesitation. Steve nodded, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Absolutely. Sometimes we all need a little help. And today, I'm here for you." The boy climbed into Steve's car, his small body curled up in the passenger seat. As they drove, Samuel began to open up more, sharing his dreams, his hopes, and his fears. He spoke of a future where he could become a doctor, just like the ones who had helped his mother when she fell ill. He wanted to help others, just as they had helped her. But most of all, he wanted to make his mama proud. Steve listened carefully, his mind racing with possibilities. This wasn't just a chance encounter. It was an opportunity to change a life. He knew that the path ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was a path worth walking. That night, Steve booked a hotel room for Samuel in the nearest town, where they would stay while Steve worked to find a solution. As they sat down to dinner, Steve took out his phone and began making calls. He reached out to his team, his friends, and his charitable contacts. Within hours, plans were in motion to provide Samuel and his mother with the support they so desperately needed. But Steve didn't stop there. He wasn't just going to give them a handout. He wanted to help them build a future. He called a friend who worked with a foundation dedicated to providing education and resources for underprivileged children. He knew that with the right support, Samuel could achieve his dreams. As Steve spoke with the foundation's team, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was more than just a good deed. It was a chance to create a ripple effect of kindness and opportunity, one that could change the lives of many more children like Samuel. The next morning, Steve and Samuel drove back to the small house where Samuel lived with his mother. It was a modest home with peeling paint and a rusty tin roof, but it was filled with love. When Samuel's mother saw Steve's car pull up, she ran out, her face etched with worry and relief. "Mama!" Samuel cried, rushing into her arms. Steve stepped out of the car and approached them, introducing himself. He explained the events that had transpired and assured her that he was there to help. Samuel's mother, a frail woman with tired eyes, listened intently, her face wet with tears of gratitude. "I didn't know what else to do," she said, her voice shaking. "I just wanted him to have a chance. I couldn't give him everything, but I wanted him to have more than I could give." Steve placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've given him everything he needs, love and the strength to carry on. Now we're going to make sure he has the opportunity to achieve his dreams." Steve's involvement didn't stop at providing immediate help. He launched a campaign to raise awareness about the challenges faced by single parents and their children. Samuel's story became a powerful example of resilience and hope, inspiring people across the country to take action and support those in need. Through Steve's efforts, Samuel was enrolled in a top-tier school where he flourished academically. His mother received the training and resources she needed to build a more stable life for herself and her son. Together, they began to build the future they had always dreamed of. Samuel's life was transformed, but so was Steve's. The encounter had reignited his passion for making a difference, and he knew that this was just the beginning. He continued to use his platform to champion causes that uplifted the less fortunate, spreading the message of hope that Samuel's story had come to represent. Years later, Samuel stood on a stage delivering a speech as the valedictorian of his class. In the audience sat Steve Harvey, beaming with pride. Samuel spoke about the day his life changed, about the stranger who had stopped to listen and offered him a lifeline. "Because of one man's kindness," Samuel said, "I've learned that the greatest gift we can give is hope." Steve's eyes welled up with tears. In that moment, he knew that his success wasn't measured by the shows he hosted or the awards he won, but by the lives he touched. As the years passed, the bond between Steve Harvey and Samuel remained unbreakable, a testament to the power of one simple act of kindness. Samuel's journey from the boy on the side of the road to the accomplished doctor standing before the world was a story of transformation and hope. His mother, too, had flourished, gaining the skills and support she needed to build a brighter future for herself and for others. Together, they had turned their hardship into a springboard for success and inspiration. Steve's life had also evolved. His philanthropic efforts grew, and his reputation as a television host was matched only by his commitment to helping those in need. What began with a chance meeting on a quiet road had sparked a movement of kindness that rippled out into communities, changing the course of many lives. Samuel, now deeply involved in healthcare, often spoke of how Steve's kindness had shaped his worldview. He had not only become a doctor, but also an advocate for underprivileged communities, dedicating his time and resources to helping those who, like his younger self, were in need of hope and a second chance. His mother had established an organization to provide support to other single mothers, ensuring that no child would have to walk alone in search of a better life. When Samuel graduated from medical school, he invited Steve to attend the ceremony. As Samuel took the stage to receive his diploma, he looked out at the audience and saw Steve's proud face. "None of this would have been possible without you," Samuel said. "You taught me that one act of kindness can change the course of a life. I will never forget the day you stopped for me and gave me hope." Steve, deeply moved, rose to his feet and clapped, the tears in his eyes reflecting years of shared experiences, struggles, and triumphs. The impact of that single, selfless moment had woven a tapestry of hope that extended far beyond just the two of them. Together, they had created a legacy that would continue to inspire, to remind people that kindness has the power to create ripple effects that reach far and wide, changing the world in ways that no one could predict. Their story was proof that sometimes the smallest gesture, a simple act of compassion, can spark a chain reaction that transforms not just one life, but many.